Audio, please let me go.
That's beautiful.
Welcome back to the DWD podcast, episode number 35, and our second episode of the week. As you all know, we're in the midst of a huge pandemic, and that being the coronavirus outbreak of 2020. This is something new for all of us. We've had past pandemics like the flu of 1918 and things before that, but to us at least, we've never seen something this severe. With all that said, we should all stay mentally stable and really allow our lives to continue functioning and not let this debilitate us. So, for this conversation, we're going to be talking a little bit about what we can do on a personal level to stay mentally stable, still have the connections which we have with people around us, and still live a functional life despite the fact that there's a huge roadblock being this virus.
Mental health's a huge concern right now. I've seen tons of posts online just talking about various ways to address these problems. The American Psychological Association, for example, has said that anxiety and depression is up even just in the last few weeks. So how do we address issues of social isolation, loneliness, losing track of your time, and not being able to sleep on a regular schedule because this virus is taking up all of our mental space?
I think that a key idea to truly understand is that social distancing is not the same thing as social isolation.
Absolutely.
Social distancing, as you all might know, is just trying to keep away in physical distance, 6 feet away or however many feet away from a person, where social isolation is physically not being in contact with people. And we're so blessed now to have opportunities like these, social media, FaceTime, Instagram, whatever connection platform that you want to use. We have these opportunities now to still stay in contact with people without being physically near them.
And Joey actually just demonstrated what I was going to mention, which is we have to find the silver lining in some of these things. And some of that might be taking a second to appreciate the fact that we're not in 1918, like you mentioned yesterday on our podcast, but also thinking about some of the benefits that this can really have. I've seen some really interesting stats as well as just conversations about the impact of coronavirus, and some have said that it's having actually a positive impact on our climate because it's been reducing the amount of carbon in our air. A lot of people are talking about the positive benefits it's having with our connection with our family, as well as just slowing down the amount of time that we're working, which is a very great thing to implement back into our lives, to take that pause. The next thing that I would really give as advice, and it's something that I'm trying to heed as well, it's very easy to get caught up in all of the new breaking news.
That media, yeah.
And the media, in a very cynical way, benefits from this attention economy because they want your attention. They're going to give breaking news every 5 minutes. Yes, it's very important to keep up on what's happening in your area as well as what's happening nationally because that impacts us on a local level. But it's also very important to make sure that you're not being overstimulated, one. And number two, you're not losing sleep because you're so concerned and you're only watching the news.
Yeah, I think a key component or a key thing which I really want to outline with what Asher was saying is that, don't overconsume media. That isn't to say that you shouldn't be watching the news as a whole, which I think can be, what you're saying can be misconstrued that way. I don't think that you should completely just kick media out the window and say we're not going to be watching any of the news because sure, like there's super vital information on there as well. But the key is don't overconsume it. So for certain people, overconsumption may be an hour. For certain people, overconsumption may be 5. Who knows? But it's super dependent on the person. You have to know yourself well enough to know, hey, this is intruding on my life. Maybe I should switch things up.
Absolutely. And in that time that you're not looking at the news, maybe go outside for a few minutes. It's amazing what taking just a few breaths of fresh air can really do for your mental space. I'm not recommending that you go out and prance around the streets or go to public venues where a ton of people will be, because even the CDC is not recommending that. But I am saying that if you could even just stick your head out the window for a few moments, that can definitely benefit your mental clarity.
100%.
Another thing to keep in mind is this too shall pass. This is a saying that my mom continued to say to me when I was experiencing my own issues with anxiety over the last semester. And although it sounds very simple, it's a very important thing to keep in mind. It's easy to think that this is the new normal. Hopefully it won't be, and we should keep that in the back of our head, that things are going to change and are likely changing right now, but it won't be like this forever. Things will go back to normal.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, another thing is to also remember to keep yourself organized, keep yourself on a schedule, so that you don't let this whole virus thing and all this stuff which is going on in our world right now kind of infiltrate the way that you're living your life. So what that may mean in a more materialized form is you setting a schedule for yourself, saying, I'm going to wake up at 8 o'clock every day. I'm going to eat breakfast at 9, lunch at a particular time, dinner at a particular time, go to sleep at a particular time. That's just a basic outline to keep yourself structured, because I know from my own personal experience, I do very well with structure. And without structure, I go a little bit haywire. That's why, in all honesty, before this episode, I really didn't feel like wanting to do this because I felt a little haywire. My mind wasn't in the right place because I wasn't on a schedule. So for myself, I will be implementing that sort of organization in the future.
Definitely. The second thing is something that Joey touched on a little bit briefly, is be social, but do it virtually. So you should use whatever tech you have to connect with people online. You don't want to see people person to person, face to face right now, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that your friendships should suffer. And lastly, this might sound like a weird one, but stay busy. Use the work that you have. If you're a university student, use the work that's left over from your classes. If you're starting a project or if you're currently working on a project, continue to use that to motivate you. If you're working right now, use that to motivate you. Anything that can kind of take your mind away from the hubbub and all the craziness that's happening around us can help you recenter, bring things back to yourself, and really succeed in this time when there's going to be a lot of new factors involved. That's us from the DWD podcast. Just a few recommendations that we have today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.